Welcome back to another episode of Ben 10 Unveiled. In the last few episodes, we've unveiled the Tennysons, including Ben, Gwen, and Grandpa Max, and explained Ben's, Gwen's, and Kevin's abilities. But today, we'll be taking a leap of faith, so to speak, off the diving board of heroism and into the deep depths of villain. That's right, today we dive into the villains of Ben 10. Before I continue, I have to comment and say there are numerous villains in the Ben 10 series, and I will cover those that have major roles in the universe and my personal favorites. Starting with the Tennysons' original antagonist and intergalactic warlord, Vilgax. Vilgax was born in 1618, according to the Ben 10 Omniverse's timeline, and he belongs to the species of alien known as the Chimera Sui Generis, also known as Vilgaxians after the planet Vilgaxia, dubbed after its leader and conqueror, Vilgax. Vilgax is known as one of the most dangerous and powerful beings in the Ben 10 universe. Having conquered over 10 planets and destroyed others, he is obviously a being hell-bent on domination. Vilgax's main goal is to secure the ultimate weapon, the Omnitrix, so that he can create an army of ever-changing, unstoppable warriors so that he can conquer the universe. Though this is a crazed obsession he has from his youth from witnessing the power of a time-traveling Ben. Yeah, guys, we'll eventually explain how Ben is the literal start and end of the universe in another episode, because it's pretty wild. Anyway, Vilgax is obsessed with obtaining the power of the Omnitrix not only, but also obsessed with getting revenge against Max Tennyson, the plumber who blew him up along with his spaceship and a nuke. But Vilgax survived this and came back to continue his vendetta against Max and his family. I'm not sure why Vilgax is so obsessed with the Omnitrix, as he himself is a literal powerhouse, having conquered 10 worlds, destroyed 5, and absorbed the powers of the warriors he's defeated. Even before gaining these powers, in his cybernetic form in the original series, Vilgax was able to easily battle Ben in all his various alien forms, shugging off constant attacks from some of Ben's strongest aliens, and even shattering the top of one of the heads of Mount Rushmore. Going further into the series, Vilgax was able to defeat every single alien Ben brought out against him. Big Chill, Way Big, Forearms. Ben only being able to defeat Vilgax once he used his original combat form, Diamond Head, to defeat him. Vilgax has still, even after being defeated by Ben and having to adhere to the Galactic Code of Conduct, schemes to destroy Ben, going as far as to band forces with Ghost Fruit, one of Ben's not only worst and most fearsome enemies, but also one of the few aliens to escape from the Omnitrix. But we will be covering Vilgax briefly, as this episode is about the villains of the show, not simply Vilgax. Dr. Animo. Animo is also known as Dr. Aloysius James Animo, or for a brief time, Devoid. He is one of Ben's possibly most reoccurring villains next to Vilgax in the Forever Knights. He is a mad scientist obsessed with genetic experiments and unlocking the gene behind different species. Animo is one of the few Ben 10 villains we get to see the backstory of before he became an antagonist to our heroes. Once a well-respected and promising researcher of veterinary science, Animo was denied a major award due to the diabolical nature of his experiments and was outcasted from the scientific community. Animo, after disappearing for over a 5-year time period, emerges to take his revenge with a device known as the Transmodulator, which, fun fact, was inspired by watching Ben as Diamond Head save the campsite in the first episode. Dang, Ben inspiring a lot of evil, it seems. Animo's device changes creatures to giant, twisted versions of themselves and can even resurrect dead animals as well. Ben defeats Animo and destroys the Transmodulator, but this wasn't the end of Animo. As I said, he is one of Ben's most consistent threats to be introduced, but for now, we move on. Next on our list is not a single villain, but an entire organization, the Forever Knights. The Forever Knights are an ancient organization formed by the great Sir George, whom really isn't a villain, as his goal is to protect the world from unearthly threats, but his idiotic successors and their factions are basically the KKK of the alien world. And for my non-American viewers, that means they are extremely unjust and unfair towards aliens. Their notable leaders were Driscoll. Although Driscoll was once known as the Forever King, he was also a former plumber, kicked out due to his theft of technology and furthering of his own personal goals. He created the original -10, a group comprised of some of Ben's most dangerous enemies in order to kill Ben 10. Fun fact about Driscoll. Driscoll is the only, if not one of the only characters in the Ben 10 series that Ben, against his code of heroism, has officially threatened to kill.
Maybe you've forgotten something. I'm Ben Tennyson, wielder of the most powerful weapon in the universe. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to release these prisoners. You're going to crawl back to wherever you came from. And you're going to stop hunting down aliens. Because if you don't, I promise, you will regret it for the rest of your very short lives.
Patrick. Patrick was the leader of a faction of the Forever Knights that devoted themselves to slaying a dragon, who was actually a poor trapped alien they imprisoned and kept from his family and young hatchlings, Urian. Urian led an incredibly small faction comprised of only 2 or so members and attempted to steal the Totec battle armor, a left-behind ancient artifact that was promptly destroyed by Ben in the form of Lodestar. Enoch. Enoch is the leader of the original faction of Forever Knights that encountered Ben and one of the most active throughout the series. In episode 20 of the Ben 10 Classic, The Ultimate Weapon, he pursued an ancient sword only to have it crumble in his hand and still survive the collapsing ruins. Enoch has schemed to replace the President of the United States with a robot, and even used a dream machine to invade Ben's dreams and convince him his family were against him, which failed. Later seen ordering his men to learn everything about the Tennysons, or last being seen left in the dream world by the Forever King. And finally, Sir Cyrus, who, although claims to follow the original path of Sir George, is just as low down and alien-hating as his fellow knights, going as far to call Ben a changeling and Kevin and Gwen alien scum. He also called Gwen a witch for her use of magic, which would be correct if she were only human, but yeah, you know, Sorcerer Supreme Anodite being. Speaking of magic, let's move on to the magical villains of our heroes. Enter Hex. If you remember Hex from episode 2 of Ben 10 Unveiled, detailing magic and Gwen, Hex is the uncle of Charmcaster and another sorcerer from the realm of Legerdemain. Hex is more of a villain to Gwen than Ben per se, as they have clashed over the charms of Bezel before Gwen destroyed them, stupidly in my opinion. But even without the charms Hex is an incredibly dangerous opponent. He is a master magician with vast amounts of magical powers, including levitation, telekinesis, mana manipulation, control of the elements. Hex is even drinking from the Fountain of Eternal Youth, which he used to restore his body in episode 45 of the original series, Don't Drink the Water, which resulted in a rather hilarious episode for our family of alien busters. Although an ultimate alien, Hex has released his role as an antagonist, even going as far to help Gwen in her noble goal of saving Charmcaster, who was trapped in Legerdemain, but not participating, as he said, even though he loves his dear niece, he is not going on a suicide mission. On to Charmcaster, aka Hope, a name given to her by Hex's brother and her father, Spellbinder. She is the primary antagonist of our beloved Anodite, Gwen Tennyson. Charmcaster first featured as simply Hex's young niece, whom schemes and clashes with the Tennysons, quite often even taking Gwen's body in a Freaky Friday-like spell that she cast to take Ben's body in the power of the Omnitrix, shown in the 29th episode, A Change of Face. However, despite her past as a fledgling sorcerer, Charmcaster is quite literally the most powerful magic user in the Ben 10 universe. Because you see, as I stated in a previous video, Charmcaster, after defeating the former ruler and tyrant of Legerdemain, Adwada, became the ruler of Legerdemain, the realm of magic. This resulted in perhaps one of the most tragic scenes of Ben 10, watching Charmcaster defeat and take the souls of everyone on the team, comprised of Ben, Kevin, and even Gwen in her Anodite form, with the power of the Alpha Rune, which is a key to the map of infinity and also the true name of magic itself. Charmcaster has power over magic itself, using this power to resurrect her late father, Spellbinder, who after learning of the method used to resurrect him was disgusted at her actions, stating that he gave his life to ensure she was far from the evil and influence of the realm, and thus returned to the afterlife. For the final featured magical villain, we have Michael Morningstar, also known as Darkstar. Darkstar is a vain, egotistical, manipulative, and power-obsessed man, perhaps one of my least favorite characters in the series. Darkstar views all women he comes into contact with as prizes or even trophies, more in love with himself than anything. He has easily manipulated nearly every character he comes into contact with in the show, Gwen, Kevin, Ben, and even Charmcaster at the height of her power, much like his leech-like personality. Darkstar's powers allow him to feed off and absorb the life force of other beings, almost like a magical osmosian, so to speak, draining the victims and leaving them as literal husks of their former selves. Charmcaster at one point, madly in love with him, asked him to say her name, and Darkstar's response fully reflects his character.
Hey, Michael.
Heather.
The villains in the Ben 10 universe are as numerous as they are lethal and cunning, and we have yet to introduce even some of the most terrifying ones. But come back for part 2 of the villain breakdown, where we dive even deeper into the evildoers that plague our shape-shifting protagonists. Now I know you guys hear this a lot, and you even hear the I know you guys hear this a lot part. But Please leave a like or comment because every single one of you makes this possible and helps small creators like me get further into the YouTube algorithm. Be sure to subscribe and click that bell notification for more journeys into this world of animation, and part 2 will be coming soon. Stay safe.